This is the China Hollywood Greenlight podcast, episode number 44.
And rolling sound. Quiet.
Here we go. Ready.
Speeding. 120, take 7.
And action.
This is Caryn McCann, the host of the China Hollywood Greenlight podcast, a podcast about creating and distributing content for both Hollywood and China. If you like the show, please subscribe and leave a rating on your favorite podcast app. Spreading the word attracts higher ratings, which attracts more guests, and then they can share their knowledge with you. It's a win-win situation. Any links mentioned in the podcast can be found in the show notes at the Chinalist, where Hollywood and China meet. Just go to https://chnlist.com and go to our podcast blog page and look for this episode, which is number 44. Before I introduce today's guest, I'd like to start out with a motivational quote to encourage our listeners to continue on their path to achieving their own green light. And today's quote is from Thomas Jefferson, and he said, "I find that the harder I work, the more luck I seem to have." A quick update on what I'm working on. I attended the online Hong Kong film market, and I'm glad to say several companies requested my scripts. I'm just waiting for a few readers to get back to me with their feedback. With any luck, I'll send the scripts out early next week. As many of you know, I also run the Chinalist membership website. This is a website to create jobs for screenwriters and producers in China and the West. Producers, membership is free. Sign up at https://chnlist.com. Writers, you can upload your first script for free. No credit card required. Get your script seen in Hollywood and China. Use this special link, https://chnlist.com/first-script-free. And that URL will be in the show notes. And now, here is the main segment. Patrick Huang studied creative film producing at Columbia University Graduate Film School. He founded the production, distribution, sales company Flash Forward Entertainment in 2002. Being praised for his distinguished eyes to spot new talents, Mr. Huang's films were selected by renowned film festivals worldwide and released globally. Mr. Huang specializes in international co-productions between East and West. Mr. Huang is also invited to be the mentor in various international labs and project markets. Well, Patrick, Mr. Huang, how would you like me to address you?
Just call me Patrick.
Oh, Patrick, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Patrick, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I told the audience very little about you, but why don't you take a minute and tell us about yourself and your business and yourself personally?
I'm a producer based in Taipei as well as in Beijing. I actually started my career as a distributor because when I was studying in Columbia University, I was interning in a distribution company called Zeitgeist, which is based in New York. And so when I returned to Taiwan, I joined a Golden Harvest company, which is a Hong Kong company and the division in Taipei. So I'm doing a lot of distribution, acquire films, I'm doing the marketing, I book cinema. So I understand the business about distribution. But since I studied producing in Columbia University, so I never forget about how to, I want to make films, but with the knowledge of the distribution, which actually make my life, easier. To understand if we make the film, who should we sell the film to?
Exactly.
Where is the market? Yeah. So over the last 20 years, I've been the distributor, but at the same time, I'm producing. And for the last 10 years, I started doing a lot of co-production. And I would say about 6 or 7 years ago, I started doing film with China. And I actually have an office in Beijing as well. And so I'm doing basically 3 things. One, I'm doing the Taiwanese production. And I'm also doing the Mainland Chinese production. And but also I'm doing a lot of co-production with Europe and Southeast Asia. And right now I'm expanding my territory to South Asia and Latin America as well. So I'm a diverse guy.
Yeah, you got a full plate. But well, you mentioned co-productions a couple times there, so that leads to my first question. Why did you specialize in international co-productions, especially between the East and West?
I think fundamentally I'm a curious guy. I think this is my nature. I like to travel, and then sometimes I like to conquer the world. It's like okay, I never been this place. I really want to go. So when I'm doing the co-production, a few days ago, I was discussing with my colleague, and then we just finished the co-production market, and then we talk about different projects, and they say, oh, South America, and then also the Africa, and then there's a project from South Africa, and then it's not the particular project I like so much, but in a while I was considering that because I never make a film in Africa.
Huh.
It's like I want to do something in different region, different culture. So that's my natural. I'm a curious guy. It's just look at my background. My company is a production, but at the same time is a distribution, the sales company. So right. I'm not doing only one thing. And then if you look at the genre of my production, not only motion picture, but I'm also doing the drama series. I also doing the documentary, animation, short film. Wow. Right now I'm entering the new media, the immersive project like VR or AR. So I never stop, pursuing something unknown. I think that's my nature. And since I study in Columbia University, so I study in the West, but right. I like the Asian culture so much. So I always like to bridge, the story between East and the West. I think it make me exciting, to trying to tell a local story globally. That's why I like to do the international co-production. Because, when you have a partner in the West, it's easier, to transform the story globally, rather than you finish the project your own and then trying to sell it. Right. The earlier you have the partner on board, it's always better, when the product is finished. I think that's the reason I like the international co-production so much.
And wow, and it's very exciting. You've got the right attitude. First of all, you're thinking big, you're thinking globally, and you've got the attitude that says, yes, I'm willing to try something new. So that's a great asset. Now you've also, your company, it's production, it's sales, distribution. That's a lot to juggle. But just so our audience can understand what you do as a producer, among many things, what are 2 or 3 main tasks you do on a quote typical day?
I could take today as example. I'm doing a podcast with you right now, but in a few hours, I have 2 meetings. Both are with a publisher, meaning I'm dealing with material on a daily basis. When I say material, it could be a novel, it could be a complete script, it could be a news story. I will discuss with my team, can we turn the novel, can we turn the story into a film? So I constantly have to discuss with the journalist, discuss with the writer, publisher, different screenplay, and then different co-producer about their script. So material is something really occupy most of my time, and I have several colleagues and intern from the development division, meaning they have to read a lot. I think that every year for the project-wise, we have to encounter more than 1,000 projects.
Wow.
We don't really read all of them, but we actually come across more than 1,000 projects. If something is interesting for us, I will assign my colleague to read the material. Wow. And then they will report. We have a way of the procedure, to examine the project. And then in the end, I will read it myself. So reading, discussing material is one big thing. And the second thing I would say about finance. I just complete shooting a film which is also a co-production between Taiwan, Singapore, and Poland. It was shot in Taiwan.
Wow.
We finished shooting about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I'm dealing with the financing because we have to pay everyone. We have to wrap up the financing, the paperwork. I have to make a report to different financier. So, and also for the new project, which I'm going to shoot in a few months, I'm also raising the finance right now. So I have to constantly, trying to write a proposal, talking to different financier. It could be the international financier, including the government funding. So financing is the other thing which also is very important and take a lot of time. And then I always consider as a producer, there are 3 major tasks. One is the scripts. Second is the finance. But the third one, which is extremely important, which is for the drama, which is the casting. So, once the project, developed for a certain level, I always, spend a lot of time discussing with my director about who should play the role. For 2 reasons. One is because some celebrities, some non-cast will be important for the marketing when the film is finished, and also it's important to secure the finance. So which actor should play the role is also my daily job. I constantly talk to my director or other producer about who we should cast. And especially for international project, for example, if the film is an Italian production and have to work in Europe, they might have some idea about the Asian casting, but maybe it's totally different from our idea because this person may not work for us. But we have to consider, okay, maybe the language skill is important, maybe the persona is important. So we have to constantly discuss casting. And since I'm also a distribution and sales company, I have to, we have one film in theater right now. And then also have to report a lot of sales figure to different clients and different producers. So all these, that make up my daily schedule. I'm very busy, and but I enjoy it. And I would say the most enjoyable moment will be reading the scripts.
Really? Oh, yeah. I'm happy to hear that. Well, it's
finding out something unknown.
Yes.
For casting, for finance, it's more like a routine. We know this one is famous. Let's talk to his agent or her agent. But for scripts, it could come from nowhere. The story right. Never understand. So it's exciting.
Oh, well, you've got a great attitude, and I really appreciate that. But that leads me to an extra question of 2 things that you just said. One is reading the scripts. You've got a development team. Are all those scripts in Chinese or are any in English?
I think it's half and half. I have a lot of co-production projects.
Wow.
So most of the scripts are in English. So my colleague and my intern, has to, have a very good language skill. Some of them might even have understand German or Korean because it's sometimes easier for us to understand the culture.
Wow, that's great. And then a follow-up question about the international projects that you said you do the Asian casting, and obviously the Asian cast better than perhaps, for example, if you did an Italian co-production, you guys would bring in the Asian cast. Would you choose an Asian star, a Taiwanese star that was fluent in English, that wasn't as famous, over a famous celebrity, famous actor?
I think it depends. If it's a more independent, lower budget project, sometimes the story is more important than the cast. I would say the director is more important. The style, the essence of the story, and which we have to cast the right person to play the role. But for a bigger project, it's like a big action, sci-fi action film, take place in outer space, and we have Asian astronaut, for example. For that kind of film, I would say it's important to have the name cast, not only working for Asian territory, but also global. So for example, Zhang Ziyi is a famous actress, worldwide. And then, so this kind of actor or actress, tend to work in the bigger international production. But if you're talking about the first time director, a project under the budget of 1 million, I think that for me, I'd rather to find the right person rather than the famous one.
And that's 1 million US?
Between 1 or 2 million, I would still consider the smaller budget.
Okay. But we're talking US, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. Well, you do all these great co-productions in Italy, Poland, and I know there's so many more. That leads to my next question. How do you find these business partners? And for our audience, how do you suggest the listeners find perhaps a Chinese or Taiwanese producer?
Where I mentioned 1,000 projects.
Yes.
Where do those 1,000 projects come from? I think that most of them come from the project market. We're talking about the Berlinale co-production market. We're talking about the production bridge from Venice Film Festival. We talk about the HAF from Hong Kong International Film Festival. So various project market. And, not just internationally, but also in Taiwan, in China, in Southeast Asia, the more hundreds of project markets, every year. And due to the COVID, actually, for the last 2 years, I attend more project market because now I don't need to travel. I could do it online.
Yes.
So I counted actually, for last year, I attended 30 project market.
Really?
And then each project market actually has at least 20 to 30 projects. You count it. There are 750 projects already. So where do I meet the partner? I think the project market is one of the big platforms for us to meet different people. Some of them are the usual, collaborator, but there are always a new director, new producer, from different regions of the world. So I would say that attending aggressively project market is one of our, main tasks. It's our agenda. So we just finished HAF in Hong Kong. And very soon we are going to prepare for the Cannes Film Festival. There's several production market. It's the different kind of genre. For example, there's some fantastic film genre, and then also some animation. Because I'm doing all kind of products, so that's why I attend all those market. And but also, I try to learn different new things. So I attend a lot of a seminar. Most of the seminar actually tie in with the film festival. But some of the seminar or conference actually, like independent or individual. For example, I attend a lot of a seminar in China as well as in Southeast Asia. Just trying to learn the market there. Trying to learn the new trend. During the seminar, sometimes I'm the listener. Sometimes I'm also the participants as the panelist. And then during the panel, I could actually meet someone new, which are also very professional, but I never know him or know her before. So through the seminar or conference, before we are like on site, we actually meet people in person. We have a coffee after the conference, so you know each other. I think that's the great timing, to meet the new people. And then it's interesting. My last film called Money Boys was selected in Cannes on certain regard, and then it's always an interesting story. People ask me how I started this project. Actually, it's the project initiated in the party because one of the co-producers, who's from France, meet me in Busan in one of the Philippine night, and we are both drunk. And they say, Patrick, I have a project. I was trying to shoot in China, but some difficulty due to the sensitive issue. We are thinking about maybe switch to another place. How about Taiwan? And I said, okay, send me the scripts. And then in a few days later, I reply, I would like to be on board. because of a wonderful script. So we just go to different places. It's not necessary to be project market. Sometimes in a party, sometimes
right.
You just have to be available. I would say available for different occasion. I think it's you just never know. And also, as I mentioned before, I like to travel. So
right.
I travel to Europe. I travel to Southeast Asia. I travel to China a lot. Before pandemic, I spent 1/3 of time in China, 1/3 of time in Taipei, and then the other 1/3 in Europe. Wow. Because I travel a lot. I mean, every month I have to travel 2 or 3 times, so my mileage is very high. I have like a gold card and a credit card because I spend a lot of money on the plane tickets. So it's important, for you to physically travel to different places, because every time you travel, you're going to meet people. That's why with only like 6 or 7 years, I'm sort of I have a lot of knowledge in China. I've been like a respectful filmmaker, even though I'm not originally from mainland China, but because I spend a lot of time there, I meet people, I watch the daily soap opera, to understand what they're thinking. It's not just to watch the best idea. Film. Sometimes you have to watch the TikTok. Sometimes you have to watch the TV series to understand what the audience really want. And I think the one thing I could suggest the Western producer or director, if you really want to find a partner in China, I think that a few things you could do. One, which could be very useful to learn a bit of Chinese. Right. Unfortunately, in China, a lot of information is not in English, and especially for example, in terms of box office, in terms of market trend, there's a lot of app which provides very useful information, but it's only in Chinese. So you learn a little bit Chinese, you understand what kind of film work better, how come this Hollywood film failed in China. You'll slowly understand that. So learn a little bit Chinese will not be a bad thing. And second is, I will say, try to make a trip to China a few times, attend a film festival there and meet people. For example, the Pingyao International Film Festival or the First Film Festival. There are also a lot of independent young directors and the producer there. Their minds are more global, compared to some of the big studios. They want to make a local film only. So you have to meet people which have the diverse mind, to trying to make an international project or trying to understand the global trend. So I think, go to China, I think it's important, or go to Taiwan, come to Taiwan. And then the third thing is, there's an association. I think it's very useful. You could try to go to their website or even join the association. It's called Bridging the Dragon. Mm-hmm. Maybe you also heard about that. It's an association, consisting the European producer and the Greater China producer. I'm also the member. They have a different seminar, different project market every year, select some projects for people to meet together, trying to bridge the West and the East. So I think that from there, we always have the WeChat group, and then we share some information, and then we have a different kind of activity. And then from there, you will be able to find the partner initially.
Do you have to be European? If you're a Westerner, do you have to be a European to join that?
No, I think it's really about the China and outside China. Okay. So you could be American, you could be Latin American, doesn't matter.
Oh, that's
They're
good.
all welcome. Yeah.
And then
Bridging the Dragon. Yeah.
Good. Let me just follow up. You mentioned that there's a way to follow the trends in China. It's written there's some apps that will give you some intel, some on the ground information about trends in China. Is that an app? Are you talking about WeChat, or is there some other app you're talking about?
There's some other app. For example, is an app called Maoyan.
Oh, Maoyan. Okay.
Which is, the Maoyan has two versions. One is the a platform for people to purchase a movie ticket. In China, 90%, more than 90% of the tickets are sold online. So the Maoyan app and then the other one called Lighthouse, which are very important because they know the billion of people what they want. Because people make a purchase on their website and then they have the first-hand information. So they always release information, okay, this movie has a 70% of female audience want to see. And then this action has a 55, males audience. They got a lot of information about that. And then the box office figure is real time. It's not like the next day. It's the real time,
That's great.
So for us, it's very important to get hold of the most updated information. But if you don't understand the Chinese, you don't even know which title they're talking about. So I think the Maoyan and the Lighthouse is a very. I read the apps every day, because I have to know what film will work and what film we anticipate a lot but failed. What's the reason? So and then they have all kind of figure to compare to last year, and then they have an annual figure, and then they have a different genre. So it's a very comprehensive database, almost like a Chinese IMDb.
Wow. Well, I will
also
have to...
IMDb Pro actually. Yeah. Because for example, you could always find, okay, this company, what have they done? Oh, okay, they have been invested this kind of film. They distribute films, or they do both. It's like from the database, you understand the company.
Is there a Chinese version of IMDb, or is this it?
No, not really. No.
Okay,
Maoyan is the Chinese IMDb. Yeah.
Maoyan. Okay, I will find out the URL and put a link in the show notes. And now, let me ask you, what obstacle did you encounter on a past project? How did you overcome it, and what did you learn?
It's a big question. I think we always encounter a lot of problems. I always consider making movie or in the movie business is like a dating or like a marriage. It's like okay, I have a lot of experience. I have experience in marriage. I married a big mistake. It's why? Because you cannot repeat the same formula.
Right.
That's the nature of our business. Meaning every project is different. You think you already have a great knowledge. You know exactly the reason which film will work globally. But when you try to copy the formula, you fail. It's not just fail a little bit; you fail completely. You never know. Even for the big Hollywood studio, they make the mistake as well. So I think the biggest problem is this business is unpredictable. And that's why but what should we do? Since it's unpredictable. And then there are two things we need to do. We need to do. One is we got to be flexible. So every time when for example, like this afternoon, I'm going to talk to the publisher, and then the book already telling us what kind of genre will be, and then I could link with many successful movie in the West or in the East. But it's still, we have to be humble because we are not sure. Because to transform this book into that genre take an effort. So we have to be flexible. Maybe it shouldn't be like that. It should be the other form. So we should not stick with our agenda. We have to listen to other people. We have to try to explore. So I think that every time when I make the mistake is because my ego. Because I think, I had a great success for the last film, which is the animal documentary. People love animal. And then so I'm going to pursue and spend a lot of money for another animal movie, but fail, which is in the true case in my career. So every time I try to copy, I made a mistake. I fail. So I think it's also because of the ego. It's like, okay, I understand. I'm sure. I'm confident. But the confidence is important, but not too overconfident. Because you really have to understand different audience. Even like 1 year later, 6 months later, audience change, the trend change. So I think the first problem we have to overcome is to face unpredictability. It's like you never know, understand. And then I would say the personality is very important. The knowledge is still very important. And we have to constantly build our knowledge. That's why we have to work very hard to understand the market. Trying to find out the hidden danger, and then also. But in the end, I still think you have to trust yourself rather than only rely on the figure. I think that we have. It's more like we have to build ourselves as someone who is strong. When I say someone is strong, meaning you could face the failure,
right?
Which is important. You have to prepare the failure all the time. And then when I talk about that, I'm talking about the professionalism, which means you have to backup. You need to have a backup. You cannot be completely failed with only one problem. So meaning we have a very strong heart, to always, live in the time and uncertainty. I think it's very important. And so it's always interesting, during the process of a development. For example, there's one book, all my colleagues against the book. They suggest me to drop the case. But for some reason, I think there's something good about that. I'm trying to grab that. So should I listen to myself or should I listen to the crowd? The crowd could be my colleague. It could be we do some market study, from the paperwork, from the figure, from the research company. That's several ways. But in the end, you still have to trust yourself. It's back to my answer in the beginning. It's about the marriage. You can never calculate the marriage.
Exactly.
In the end, one day before your wedding, you have to ask yourself if you want to do it or not. You need to have a gut.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my answer.
Exactly. And well, as far as going with the group consensus, this isn't film, but you just look at Apple. With Steve Jobs, we didn't know we wanted the iPhone until it came out, and now
right.
it's this huge bestseller. So sometimes there is no precedent. On one hand, you can do a copycat version, and I know this is not your style, but there's people out there that just regurgitate old IP that's been done and done and done, and there's really not anything different, and they wonder why it's not selling. Whereas maybe if you have a novel concept, it could take off. So yes, it's a gamble, and yes, it's unpredictable.
But it's interesting. This is one great saying, which is really important for our business. As a producer, you have to be one step ahead of the audience, but not 10 steps ahead of the audience. When you have a 10 step, in front, above the audience, meaning you are doing something experimental. You are experimenting things, meaning the audience is too far from you.
Right.
It's still difficult. But if you are at the same pace with the audience, there's a problem because the audience wants something new. You have to be a little bit different. Every time you have to one step, it's like they will follow. Oh, great. It's interesting. So much fun. So that's why, we don't really do copycat. Copycat will make the energy diminished. So I think, every time, we have to consider what audience want. You really have to study that, understand that, but you want to make it a little bit different. Not so much different, but a little bit different. I think that's the technique for a film producer.
Yeah. So the cliche we have here in LA is the same, but different.
Okay. Right.
Now, this is a little bit related. If you could magically solve two current problems. Now, I know that, yes, the industry is unpredictable. But if you could magically solve two current problems, what would that be? It could be minor, it could be major.
For the Chinese film, it's not just for my project, but I think it's a great difficulty that we have to face, which is the censorship.
Right.
I have a project which is in between development and pre-production. We're going to shoot in the summer, which is fully financed. To finance a film is not the most difficult thing. The most difficult thing is the censorship, and then along the way, you have to deal with the subject. You have to deal with, how the censorship board consider your project, because for example, most of the world, when you make a film, as long as someone want to watch it, you can release it. That's free. It's a freedom, But in China, motion picture is still under control. Meaning, if you don't have the certificate, you cannot release the film, and that's why a lot of the recent mainland Chinese production are propaganda film, because it's easier. It's talking about the good things, the good manner, good people, good heart. And but if you are trying to challenge something, you want to criticize the society, you have to be very careful. But people want to see something rebellious, want to see something unusual.
Right.
People want to see something criticizing ourselves or criticizing our society. That's why people want to go to cinema. So it's actually against each other, but how to find a balance is always a problem. And it takes a lot of knowledge, connection, and also the guts, I would say. You just have to face that, because once if the film cannot be released, meaning you cannot recoup at all. So to make sure the film is finished and then released properly, this is the big task in China more than anywhere else. I think that's something is always in my mind, trying to overcome. And the second thing I would say, to find a good material is always a problem. We read so many scripts, we read so many books, but the very few could have the potential to turn into a great cinema. So I think how to set up a team, more efficiently, and then how to nail down the project, and make it work, and to shorten the development time, because every project will take about 3 to 4 years to develop projects. Sometimes it's really too long. And so how to make it efficient, I think is one of the big problem we have to face.
Wow. Okay. 3 to 4 years. That's that's definitely that's a good magical problem to solve.
Well, actually, my last film, Money Boys, even though I joined only like 3 years, the project been around for 10 years already. It's not that easy, especially for the co-production.
Oh wow! Well, you did mention that your company looks at 1,000. Excuse me, 100. What am I saying? 1,000 projects. What sort of future projects are you looking for? Are they film or TV? Is there a certain genre? And what? And the flip side of that question is, what do you think the mainland Chinese studios are looking for?
Myself, as a diverse person, I'm looking for all kinds of projects. So people always ask me, okay, what kind of project you like? My answer always, whatever the project interests me.
Okay.
So
okay.
it could be a comedy, it could be a horror film, it could be a like auteur drama, and also right now I'm aggressively pursuing the immersive project as well. So for me, it's like every kind of project. And but particularly if I want to say something which I want to do more, I will say the commercial project. If you look at my background, I actually do a lot of so-called art house film. Because when you talk about international co-production, it tends to be more art house, especially between East and West. It's like we always work with the friends, trying to get the funding from the French government, from CNC, and then all those projects are art house projects. Like auteur independent Chinese project. But right now, I try to alter a little bit my image, that because there's too many art house projects coming to me. It's like, oh, Patrick, based on your previous records, I'm sure you like this project, but there are too many, So I want to do some Squid Game as well. Why not?
Right.
So I want to do some high concept sci-fi film. Why not? So I intentionally I want to do some more commercial project, for the years to come. That's my intention. And back to the second part of your question, what the Chinese company or Chinese big studio they want. I would say there are three kinds of film they are particularly looking for. One is the high concept remake, because we have seen so many successful remake cases in China, also in Taiwan. A lot of them are from Spain, from Korea the most, and then not only make it into a movie, but also make it into the drama series. So a lot of the producers are actually looking for remake. And then because China is a big market, actually, I remember a few years ago, if you talk to a Thai producer, oh, your film, your comedy, romantic comedy is wonderful. Can we have the remake? Can we talk about remake? And then the answer is always, oh, it's gone already. So it's been swept. All the material in Korea, in Thailand, or even in Spain, because in Spain we have a lot of like a thriller.
Right.
It's like Invisible Guest, that kind of movie.
Right.
So they're all gone, because they have been successful in China. So remake, if you have a good material, you have a good film, let's say from Russia, let's say from Germany, a local romantic comedy, if you could somehow, it could be transformed into the Chinese content, it could work. And then, first of all, you have to be successful locally first. So high concept remake is something they are looking for. The second thing is they are looking for propaganda film. Over the last few years, the biggest box office are propaganda. Sometimes it's extremely propaganda, but sometimes it has the nature of a propaganda, But in the end, it's always uplifting. It's always about the kindness, about the history, of people in China, So if you have some historical story or some story which about people are working hard, trying to make other people better life, to sacrifice yourself, that kind of propaganda film tend to work right now. So if you have a story, about World War II and a Chinese, businessman trying to sacrifice his company or his to danger himself to save a lot of foreigner, for example, you have that kind of story, it might work in China. So it's a propaganda film. And then for the last few years, there's a new trend, which is the fantastic film work in China, but only up to a certain level. If you really want to break the great box office, you actually have to back to reality. Meaning, we are talking about our life. I have the problem too, like this character. The main character has the same problem. For example, we have to deal with the disease. My son is dying, or that kind of story, and then I have to try to make all our effort, try to save my son. So when we back to reality, talking about the big problem in China, because for a country with 1.4 billion people, there are a lot of problems socially. There's a social gap. They couldn't see the future, and then from the countryside they moved to city. They live in the lousy situation. If the movie is about their life, actually you could have echo from the audience. But in the end, you have given them hope. If you're talking about the problem only, they don't want to see it. So you show their circumstances, which is true, which is a realism, but at the same time, you give them a hope. So that kind of story, for example, there are quite a few films. Some of them even based on the true story, worked very, very well in China.
Like Dying to Survive, something like that.
Like Dying to Survive. Yeah, exactly. It's based on a true story. And I actually read another news a few days ago. Same thing happened again. this father being arrested because he secretly imported some medicine for other people. So it's still happening. It's still happening. It's like this is the problem you have to deal with. But you could see some, the act of the hero, trying to not just to save his own son, but also trying to benefit other people. And then that's the courage. And then even though we are in a very difficult situation, but we are still trying to be brave enough, to do good things. I think that's kind of film which will work very, very well in China.
Good. That's good to hear. That gives all the screenwriters out there some hope. Now, here is a trick question. What question did I not ask you that I should have?
Not okay.
Or I can throw out a
question. I think, yeah. Okay, I think I could go deep, with the question about co-production.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. A lot of people come to me, ask me about how to do a co-production, and they want to learn my expertise. They always think, okay, co-production is cool. Co-production give a lot of opportunity, but at the same time, actually, if you have the resource, you have a good project, sometimes not doing co-production actually is better. Okay. It's conflicting with each other. It's like if you have a local film, for example, Dying for Survive, you don't want to go to the international co-production route,
right? Because
it's local. But the film actually is good enough. Actually, could appeal some international audience. So sometimes I think that instead of trying to attract international market, you have to be local first. If you cannot be local, you shouldn't expect the film will work internationally. Sometimes for a tour film, yes, but most of the project, you have to be working domestically, and then in the end, it will work internationally. For example, the Parasite, for example, actually it's a great box office in Korea. But in the end, you will see, okay, conquer the world, because they're talking about the family, talking about the social gap. It works internationally, but the content is very Korean. So when we say, okay, try to be diverse yourself, try to embrace the international market, but at the same time, you have to ask your question: are you local enough? Do you really understand your character? Do you really understand your society? So instead of pursuing something out there, we have to go deep inside as well. I think that's something I could elaborate about the co-production.
Well, that's good advice. That's good advice, because if it's not going to make it locally, then it probably won't make it internationally.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Now, in conclusion, would you like to, what advice would you give yourself, your younger self? What advice could you, yes. Yeah.
Well, I would tell myself, if I could start over again, I would try to learn more language. I think the language is important, because our business is about communication. Right. I hope I could speak French, I could speak German, I could speak Spanish, when we deal with the Latin American project, it would be much, much easier. So language is something, if I were young, I would definitely spend some time to study more language, at the same time to understand different culture. And I actually also will advise myself to doing more commercial project, in the beginning, to go into China earlier, because when I started my career in the early 2000s, I doing a lot of local film, the local stuff. Even though I had some success, I was too slow going to Chinese market. due to a few reasons. One is because I was successful. When you were successful, you're trying to copy, and at a certain point, I feel okay. There's no progress anymore. That's why I went to China. Trying to pursue something new. But if I could start over again, because 2002 is the time, when the Chinese film industry changed, because they were government-owned studio, they changed to the private company. It's like a private company. You could also make film, distribution film, finance film, which is the year of 2002.
Wow.
But actually, at that time, I went to China. I spent a few months there. I lived there. Because I just left my previous company, Golden Harvest, before I formed my company, Flash Forward. And then at that gap, I went to China. If I could start over again, I actually would like to spend more time in China. Actually, maybe step into that big market at that time. But you never know. Even though I didn't do that, but I get my success for international co-production. If I, step into China, maybe I only make the very successful local company, instead of co-production. So you never know. But I would say it's a good thing, for me to enter a big market earlier, because I have the privilege, the advantage about the language.
Exactly.
But I didn't use that. So I wasted 10 years, before going to China. Even though I'm still, doing a lot of things in China, but I hope I could do that. I could have done that earlier.
Right. But you also said at the beginning of the interview, you're very curious and you love to travel. So
right.
you got that chance through doing all these co-productions.
Yes, so it's catch-22. I mean, but I mean, I think the world is big enough for everyone to fit in, and we can't really conquer the world, but to be flexible and to be how to call that, be yourself. I would say, trying to be happy while doing things, and not to think about the so-called regulation or so-called definition of success. Everyone has a different definition anyway. So I think to enjoy what you like to do. And I think it's our privilege, to tell the story, to share the story. We are the storyteller. We like to hear a story, but at the same time, we like to share the story. And then by keep doing so, you'll be happy.
Exactly. Now, lastly, would you like to share any social media details or website links?
Okay, there's several website I think is useful, not just for China, but I think they're basic, for any professional. You should really look into it all the time, or even the daily basis. For example, all kinds of trade paper. For example, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Screen Daily. There are all kinds of news, happen around the world. I think it's a daily basis. But if you want to understand China, there's a website. I believe they have a newsletter as well called China Film Insider, and this in English. And then they will give you all the news information about the current situation or the successful story in China. I think it's a good starting point. And also, I would say if you are interested in some Southeast Asian market, there's an association. They have a website, not website, the Facebook page called Purin Picture. Almost every day they announce some new events.
What was it? Picture?
Purin, Purin, Purin Pictures.
Oh, Purin. Okay.
Purin Picture. Yeah, it's an association from Thailand, but they support a lot of young filmmakers from Southeast Asia. So if you want to, because I myself am doing a lot of co-production with Southeast Asia, I also mentoring a lot of young filmmakers from Southeast Asia. So I'm actually, not only Chinese and Europe, but I'm also very into the Southeast Asia. I'm also participating in a lot of events there as a mentor. So I will say I benefit a lot from this kind of the the Facebook page or website, such as a print picture. And if I really into the co-production, there's a website I would suggest people who look into, especially for the young filmmaker, young producer, which is the Locarno Film Festival. You look for the toolbox. There's a list of the grant of the project market, a list of the labs you could participate. You could bring your project. You could submit your project. It's very
That's
comprehensive.
Great.
Just look for Locarno Toolbox. Yeah, you can find it.
Okay. And what about any websites for your company or anything like that?
Okay, if you want to understand Taiwan, I forgot to mention that you search the TAICA. It's a new agency supported by the government, and then they are pushing a lot of international co-production, which you might want to take a look. Called TAICCA, TAICA.
Okay.
Is the full name is a Taiwan Creative Agency. Yeah, TAICCA, TAICA. And then my company, you search for the Flash Forward Entertainment, and the website is very simple. It's www.ppe.com.tw/international. You will find that. Yeah. So FFE is the appreciation of the Flash Forward Entertainment. You could find it. And then you can see our product, and then you see what we are doing, and feel free to email us. If you have any opportunity for collaboration.
Excellent. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for all your great insights and knowledge that you've shared, and thank you so much for coming on the show today.
You are welcome. Yeah, it's my honor.
And we'll see you at the premiere.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And now for my key points and takeaways. 3 key points. Number 1, producers, how to find projects. Patrick mentioned several ways producers can find projects, and that is project markets. Patrick mentioned he looks for projects at key production markets, such as Berlinale Co-Production Market, Venice Production Bridge, and the Hong Kong Asia Financing Forum. B, market and festival seminars and parties. Patrick has networked at these events and found partners and projects. Writers, this is where you find producers, so check those out. Patrick also specifically mentioned mainland Chinese festivals such as the Pingyao Film Festival and the First Film Festival, so see the show notes for those URLs. Number 2, writers, how to find producers. Patrick suggests you join Bridging the Dragon. This is an association geared towards European and Chinese collaboration. Luckily, Patrick says the association is really geared to fostering collaboration between China and filmmakers and producers outside of China. Number 3, market intel. Patrick mentioned several ways he can gauge the market, which is crucial to deciding what script to greenlight. One way Chinese speakers can see what films or subjects are trending is to check out real-time box office apps such as Maoyan or Lighthouse. Another way is to watch Chinese soap operas. Patrick said, when you watch a local TV series, you get a feel for what the audience wants. And now for takeaways, I've got 4. Number 1, you can't repeat old formulas. As we say, you can't rest on your laurels. Just because you made a hit documentary, for example, about a particular subject matter doesn't mean you can repeat the same success. You need to leave your ego out of decision-making. Audiences and trends change. Number 2, what are the Chinese studios looking for? According to Patrick, first of all, high-concept remakes. However, Patrick said he found good IP from Korea or Thailand usually is gone before you can make a deal. Many projects, the remake rights are sold faster than you'd expect. B, propaganda films. Chinese studios have an easier time getting these films made. They focus on uplifting stories about regular people making sacrifices for the betterment of the group. C, reality or true stories. Chinese audiences are keen on stories that reflect their everyday lives that offer hope. An example would be the film Dying to Survive. 3, co-productions or a local film. If you have a great project, you may be better off, according to Patrick, not doing a co-production. Focus on your domestic audience. If it doesn't work domestically, it probably won't work internationally. A good example is Parasite. It had a great local story about family and economic gaps in Korean society. Because it resonated so well, it became an international hit and even won an Oscar. Resources. Besides Number 4, resources. Besides checking out project markets, Patrick mentioned some great resources you should research. A, the Locarno Film Festival. They have intensive programs for filmmakers, film critics, and sales and distribution people. They also have a page called Toolbox where users can interact with mentors and get advice. Check out the show notes for the URL. B, the Taiwan Creative Content Agency, also known as TAICCA. They incentivize productions with business matching, market intelligence, training for creatives, as well as providing grants and funds. C, Purin Pictures. This is a Facebook group that focuses on Southeast Asian film. They offer many resources, so check them out. Lastly, producers, remember that your membership to the Chinalist is free. Find the next great script or writer before your competition does. You can also post tailored calls for submissions on our private writing jobs page. Sign up at https://chnlist.com. Writers, upload your first script for free. No credit card required. Get your script seen in Hollywood and China. Use this special link. https://chnlist.com/first-script-free. Well, that's the show. Thank you for listening. To show your support, please subscribe and leave a rating on your favorite podcast app so other people can find this podcast. These social media shares really do help. And I'll see you at the premiere. Bye. 一会儿见.